Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk about ethics in public speaking today. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to get right into the PowerPoint. This is for my public speaking class. Let's get into it. Here we go. Come on, PowerPoint. Here we go. Here we are. Hi, everybody. Okay, ethical public speaking. Before we even get into audience analysis, we really want to talk about what is ethical public speaking and the importance of that. It cannot be underrated or, um, overstated. Let's put it that way. It's super important that you realize that you're honor bound to this as a public speaker, that good public speaking considers the ethics involved in that, and that you're honor bound to tell the truth and to tell it in a way that's respectful and caring and considerate. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get to it. So think about if you're going to think about what ethics are, what are ethics for you? How would you define the word ethics? Right? Generally speaking, when we think of ethics, it's our way of being in the world, right? How we live our lives. Do we walk our talk? Do we do what we say we're going to do? Are we honest? Do we live by, what kind of code do we live by? Do we live by the golden rule? Do we treat others as we want to be treated? That's what we're talking about ethics. And ethics aren't limited to just your own ideas. Oftentimes your ethics are based upon your religious or spiritual ways or practices in your life. Also your cultural practices, ethics. They can come from your social practices or your community practices or your political beliefs, right? What are your ethics around your own political beliefs? So ethics are about behavior and our attitudes, okay? And they're very individual, even though a certain ethics can apply to a group. When we think of ethics, we can apply ethics in different situations. So when we're going to kind of look at how we categorize ethics, and one category of ethics is called ethical absolutism. So some people have ethics in which their beliefs or their practices apply to all situations. That's what we call ethical absolutism. There's probably not, in the country that you've grown up in, there's probably not a lot of that. We do have one, but even then you can still find examples. I was going to say murder, right? That we have ethics around murder is wrong, but there are some situations in which murder is appropriate if you're trying to defend yourself, right? So ethical absolutism, maybe in your personal belief, so is that murder is always wrong, no matter what, even if you're defending yourself, you do not murder, right? That's an example of ethical absolutism. Situational ethics, more likely we have ethics that applies to situations. Right? So let's just think about honesty. I'm a person that believes in honesty, but sometimes honesty is not the best answer to all situations, right? If you're going to be honest, it's going to hurt somebody that you love. Is it right to be honest, or is it not right to be honest? Right? So here's an example. Like, I really believe in honesty, but I've said to my partner, if there's an affair or there's some lack of fidelity, I don't want to know about it. So I've already established those lines because I don't want to know. I don't want to be hurt by it. I rather live believing that everything is great. The only reason I would want to know is if that's going to cause the end of my relationship with her. Okay? that's me. That's me defining how I want that played out. Someone might believe that honesty is always the best policy. Some people believe that even if it hurts someone, they'd rather have honesty. So are you a person that's more like uses ethics situationally? And I think that's probably more me. Or are you a person that's more absolute in it? And then another way to think of ethics is it's something that's related to your culture, culturally relative ethics. So when you're practicing, let's say you're Muslim or you're Jewish, and there is both of those religious practices they don't eat pork. Okay, um, perhaps when you're practicing your religion, and maybe you loosely practice that religion. Okay. And so, in situations where you're around people that are like you, that are practicing that religion or practicing that faith, then you practice your religion, right? Or or those ethics you apply them all situations, but it comes out of your culture, out of your religious culture or your ethnic culture, right? Does it make sense? So, it means the way you see something as right or wrong based upon your culture and letting that influence your decisions. Okay. We talked about this earlier, that the word character translates from Greek as an ethos. So, good way to remember ethos, not as ethics, but as character. That our ethics build our character. How we walk our talk, how we do what we say we're going to do, how we live by our word, right? I just had an experience as we're preparing for our wedding event where we had to go somewhere in Fresno, and um, we we're doing some stuff in our backyard, and in the place that we went to, we had ordered some stuff, and um, we said we'd be back on Friday to pick it up, and we didn't write anything down. The gentleman didn't take our number. It was like a total handshake thing, right? It was a total, like, in the olden days, people believed in someone's word, and you kept your word because that was the right thing to do. And so when we went there on Friday, or I didn't go, my partner went there on Friday to go get that stuff. It was there and ready to go based upon that conversation that happened 2 days ago, right? That's an example of ethos, right? Like someone has credibility and that's also comes from a culture of that's the way things used to be handled. I thought it was really unusual. Okay. How do we earn the audience trust? How do we speaker credibility, how the speaker develops their credibility with your audience is you got to know your stuff, right? Your first speech is going to be about your personal symbol. Only you know about your personal symbol. I don't know what it is. Only you know, and it has meaning to you. That's why it's your personal symbol. It might be, let's just say it is, it's the peace sign. Okay, that's your personal symbol. You're a person that really believes in peace. You practice peace, and you have all these reasons around why the peace symbol is your symbol. Well, I have my own ideas about what the peace symbol is. It reminds me of the 60s, it reminds me of hippies, reminds me of a time before, I wasn't even hardly, I was hardly walking during that time that it became the peace symbol. It was a peace symbol and it was used a lot. Um, so it has all these resonances for me. That's my personal feelings about it. But I want to know, what's your personal feeling? And as you talk about that, as you talk about your next speech, when after that is about a social issue, we want to know that you have a solid grasp. You know what you're talking about. Do you make sense? Right? This goes right back to the solid grasp of the subject is about your ethos. But do you have sound reasoning skills? That's your logos, right? Are you making sense? Are you clear? Does one thing follow another? Are you honest? You tell the truth? Or do you try to manipulate the facts to use it on your behalf? Do you act like you actually care about what your audience thinks? Right? Do you treat us with respect when you talk? Have you picked a topic that has considered who your audience is, right? I'm going to give you an example. I had a student who picked a topic who talked about Jeffrey Epstein. If you know anything about, and that time that Jeffrey Epstein had killed himself and was in the news, if you know anything about Jeffrey Epstein, and if you consider that half of the population is women, he's a despicable character. Nobody cares about him. And the fact that he committed suicide or was murdered, and he was so despicable for so many years, honestly, in the society, I don't care about him. And so someone gave a speech about that, and I thought that wasn't a good speech topic, because immediately the talk of that person to care about whether he was murdered or not murdered, who cares? He's gone, right? He's a bad human being. He's done nothing to help people in this world, or nothing, at least 50% of the population, which is, if you're a male, it's your sister, mother, daughter, grandmother, right? Of the other half of the population, he's done nothing. So think about your topic. What's your topic? Are you going to be considerate of who you're talking to? Are you being inclusive? A good speaker always respects the values of the audience. It goes right back to what I was just talking about. A good speaker always does not engage in hate or defamatory speech. So you might have a strong opinion about something, you might feel really strongly about it, but you need to consider who's in the audience. It doesn't mean you're not honest. It just means that you're considerate of other people's feelings. Okay? And you're considerate of what people are ready to hear or talk about. So there's a lot of important stuff that we need to talk about right now in our society, right? Let me even talk about racism. So racism is such an important topic, and you can't talk about racism without talking about white supremacy or white privilege. And the minute you talk about that, if in a society that has systemic racism, that's a hard topic to talk about. And you have to also find a way to talk about it so people can be understanding, and you to be understanding of their reactions, right? But I don't want to say that we shouldn't talk about it. I think we should talk about it. And I'm going to guess that some of you will take on that topic as a social issue, which is an important social issue. But let's say you talk about animal cruelty, or reasons why we should be vegetarian, or why we shouldn't eat meat, and you talk about factory farming and all of that. This is a agricultural town, right? This is a agricultural valley. So can you think about people that subsist on their families who work on farms or work in meat production or any of that? So just thinking about how we respect the audience values around that. Now, when I said hate and defamatory speeches, we don't pick on any groups of people. We don't, if there's something you don't agree with, you stick to the facts of why you don't agree with it. But we don't pick or hurt people. We don't talk about, let's say you're don't believe in gay marriage. That's okay. You don't have to believe in it, right? But we also don't put people down because of it, right? Let's say you don't believe in interracial marriage. That's okay, but we don't put people down for it. Okay, so you can have your own beliefs, but you can be respectful of others in that situation. All right. Your thing, this is a really, really important. This is your burden and responsibility as a public speaker. And what you're doing. As you develop these speeches and you give these and deliver these speeches, you are contributing to the public discourse in the class. Okay? Your work in school contributes to the public discourse. Public discourse is the knowledge that we have. So you are contributing to the knowledge about things in your class, with your students, with your peers, with me. You're contributing to our knowledge and understanding about things. So there's a great responsibility, isn't it? And I know that this is a general education course, and you're trying to get past the course, but there's also a great responsibility in what you're doing. And with that great responsibility comes, actually, it's wonderful. There's a lot of power in it. You could actually enjoy the fact that you have this power to influence people, because that's what public speaking ultimately has the power to influence people.